Hello, again, this is Jesse. I'm doing this in my taxi, so just to understand why the black screen is there. I do have a lot on my mind. I'm going to start today with politics, because certain things are going on, and again, it's just me offering my opinion in hopes of helping the American society. I've written and done videos where I have stated clearly that all in the levels of citizenship, the highest level I have received is a permanent residency status. And during the presidential election 2016 between Donald Trump and everybody else, I was asked, well, why do you care? You're not even a citizen. Well, I may not be a citizen, but I live my life in the United States of America. This is where I conduct business. And what happens in America, what policies the Congress and the President pass directly affect me. Not to mention attitudes. I was telling a young person that asked me about whether I'm exhausted working what is called the graveyard shift. And I told him clearly, you got to have a good attitude, and if you have a good mindset, you're not suffering through your work experience. So the attitudes of police officers, politicians, and business people matters. And when businesses decide that they're going to do whatever they want to do, and the heck with everybody else, there has to be resistance from people. But if people are unhealthy, if people don't have the right mindset, they want to put up a fight. They just won't know how to fight. Now, the thing that got my attention are several things. First is this whole Russian thing, and I guess I'll deal with the Russian thing first. And I'll deal with the supposed idea that there was complicity between Trump and Putin to try to make Hillary Clinton look bad. The first thing that I will state on that issue is that there's no benefit for for Putin, and there's no benefit for Russia. The candidate Trump, the speeches he made, the policy initiatives he set forward do not benefit Russia. If Putin honestly believed that helping Trump was going to help him, he has to be a very serious fool. And what we know of Mr. Putin is he's not a very serious fool. He was trained by the KGB. I'm surprised how many people think that that Russia is a free democracy. Russia may have the mask of a free democracy, but it actually is still a communist dictatorship, and Putin is the dictator. He come in, he changed the law so he could stay. He outlived Medvedev, or whatever his name was, and he's got his grip on the country, and he has no intention of letting go. There's no elections that are going to result where Putin is going to be thrown out of office. So anybody thinking that Putin would help Trump because it's going to help him is just a foolish statement. And that point leads me to that it's the media, which will lead me to the next point, which is Paul Ryan and McConnell playing politics and serving their corporate masters. One thing that caught my eyes, I was reviewing services this morning, was McConnell talking about the national debt and tax policy, how you need a tax policy related to paying down the national debt. I'm surprised that he would have such a attitude, considering that John Boehner, Paul Ryan, and Mitch McConnell helped Obama run up the national debt. Obama was an irresponsible administrator, and the other irresponsible administrators that were helping him were Mitch McConnell, Paul Ryan, and John Boehner. On the Republican side, of course, Obama was going to have assistance on the Democrat side. And it's kind of ironic to hear the people who are responsible for the problem criticizing Donald Trump's tax policy as going to result in an increase in the national debt. And if you read the story, apparently they're under the assumption that in the next 10 years, and understand that, in the next 10 years, Donald Trump's tax policy will add $5.3 trillion to the national debt. Okay, so if you do basic math, it's less than $1 trillion per year. Now, if you're not a smart person, and I hope you don't get offended, you can very easily be lied to. That's reality. If you do not know, management issues, you can be very easy to lie to about issues of business. Lowering the corporate tax rate, lowering the individual tax rate, will actually lead to investment in America. People will start business. Corporations in business right now will open new store locations, new office buildings, what have you, new manufacturing plants, even hospitals and clinics. So you cannot look at the tax revenue as a static number. If you increase investment in America and business increases, if you have more businesses, you're going to generate more tax revenue. The foolishness, the stupidity to think that you can generate more tax revenue by raising taxes. When you raise taxes on a person and you raise taxes on a company, people and companies adjust to deal with the new tax burden. Let's take my situation, just as a simple example, let's take my situation into account. I'm a taxi driver, self-employed. I have to do my self-employed taxes. I pay taxes. If I learn that, let's say I set a goal. I'm earning $25,000 a year, for example, right now, and I want to set a goal of $30,000. And I sit down and look at the current tax that I will pay, and I come to the conclusion that's manageable. And then I learn that the government is going to increase taxes, which means that if I achieve my goal of getting to $30,000 from $25,000, I'm going to pay taxes that is going to cost me a financial burden. I'm going to adjust by not pursuing the goal of getting to $30,000 annual income. Simple explanation. And that's what happens with businesses. If you have a business and the business is doing financial forecasting, all businesses do financial forecasting. All businesses say in our fiscal year of 2016 we made so much. If we make these adjustments, we can increase our income by so much. So all businesses do financial forecasting. And in that financial forecasting, you include all expenses, including tax liability. Therefore, if government increases taxes, it's going to impact how much businesses, one, are able to conduct, and two, are willing to conduct. Just because government happens to believe that we're already a source of taxes doesn't mean that we're going to participate, in their desire to squeeze us for all our money. We're in business because we want to make profit. We're not in business because we want to finance every, peculiar scheme of the Congress and the President. And when I say that Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell are very good at serving the corporate masters, there is the problem. Yesterday I was listening to Laura Ingraham, and they were talking about the Russian, supposed interference in American politics, and it's the follow of money. Well, you got to realize that anything and everything that can be used against Donald Trump is going to be used against Donald Trump. Mr. Trump is a threat to the New World Order, to the Illuminati, call it what you want to call it. Again, I'm going to focus on this video a lot, that there is a small group of business people, filthy rich business people, who manipulate politicians like Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell, John Boehner, Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid. Even though some of these individuals have left the political scene, there are these kinds of individuals in American society who want to control American society, and they are going to lose under a Donald Trump administration that wants to lower the individual tax rate and wants to lower the corporate tax rate. And the reason that they're going to lose is because you open up competition and you make other people rich. If Americans succeed in their small business, they have financial power. If individuals succeed as far as finding employment that pays their bills and leaves them money to save, they have financial power. I made some financial contributions to the Trump campaign. Nothing great, but if you take $1 million, you take $30 from 1 million people, that collectively, that's very big financial power. And you have people who don't want to lose control of power. They have enjoyed running Obama around. They have enjoyed running Hillary Clinton around. They enjoyed running George W. Bush around and Bill Clinton around. And as far as they're concerned, they're always going to be in charge, and nobody's ever going to challenge them. And the reason they don't want anybody to challenge them is because their $500 billion can very easily turn into $50 billion, which reduces their financial power because the individual becomes financially strong. Groups of individuals together can pool their financial resources and support politicians that are not going to do their bidding, that are not going to do what they want, that are not going to give them corporate welfare, and who are going to be responsible to the American citizen. Mitch McConnell is not stupid. He understands that when you cut taxes, you actually make more tax revenue. He also understands that there's a great necessity to rein in spending. And I'm sorry for coughing. I've said before that the more I speak, the more I cough. But I'm just not going to pay it any attention anymore. So Mitch McConnell is a very smart person. And for him to come out pretending to be concerned about Trump's tax policy as it relates to an increase in national debt, it's a dummy, trying to talk about complicated issues, but he's not a dummy. He's pretending a particular point of view. It's a false point of view, it's a fake point of view, and it's for no other reason than to cause Donald Trump problems. And the people who elected Trump have to understand that the people in business, special interest groups like Planned Parenthood, are going to give the media their marching orders, so they'll find things that make Trump appear to be bad when in reality he's not bad. Now there's some choices that Mr. Trump has made, and I will say it. I wrote an article on it. Just because I supported you, Mr. Trump, doesn't mean that everything you do is going to be, is going to get my blessing. If I believe you're doing something that's counterproductive to the American people, being able to find, an income stream that fits their particular wants, needs, and desires, then I'm definitely going to speak against it. I have no understanding of why in the world you would want to make Reince Priebus your Secretary of State, considering that Reince Priebus was the chief administrator of the political party that didn't want you as president. that makes no sense whatsoever to me. There has to be. I mean, I understand politics. I understand, paying people for political favors for them helping you. But again, if you're supposed to be a different kind of politician, if you're supposed to be a different kind of president, then you have to get the hell out of there. Get the hell out of there now. This is for taxis, not for you. Excuse me, I'm yelling at some people in the parking. I don't understand why these people, they come in, they see the signs, and it is one of my, when I talk about societies and attitudes of citizens and, people who happen to believe that they can do everything, they don't have to follow the law, that is a big problem. When I was setting this up, meditating on this, I was wondering, what is the morality of a person like Paul Ryan? What is the morality of a person like Mitch McConnell? I mean, one thing that Mr. McConnell is correct, $20 trillion national debt is a crisis. And it's a crisis that he helped create. But there were individuals making decisions that led to that crisis. What is their morality? What is Mr. Paul Ryan's morality? How does he work hard at importing Mexicans, Arabs, and Cubans? He has to understand that these individuals create a burden to the American citizen, not only in taxes, but what they do. I live in El Paso, Texas. I've written many articles about the deficient morality and ethics of the people of Mexico. I didn't come to that conclusion because I don't like the people of Mexico. I didn't come to that conclusion because I have some kind of animosity towards the people of Mexico. I studied it. I did a critical analysis of it. I have been fascinated by human psychology. I earned 2 degrees, a bachelor's of science. It was the last degree majored in psychology, minored in science. And I have thought about this. I've meditated on the issue, and I've wondered, why is it that societies fall apart? Mexico's failed. It's a complete excuse me. It's a complete failed state. And there is no, spinning that. But the reality is that the people of Mexico are human beings and have the same, composure, biological composure, as the human beings in the United States of America. And all people understand right and wrong. All people understand good and evil. But the reason I brought up that I live in El Paso, Texas, is because I see a lot of people just being bad, being evil, choosing to be bad, understanding that there's a different way, a better way, but choosing the wrong way. And I'm talking about how they drive, where they park, the hustle. In El Paso, Texas, you have a lot of people with license plates from Mexico who live in the United States of America, who put these license plates on their vehicles because they will not have to pay insurance, they will not have to pay vehicle registration. If they get stopped by a police officer, the information on the citation, if there's going to be a roundup of police warrants, because they're not going. People who have license plates of Mexico and license plates of the state of New Mexico, but live in Texas, will never be rounded up by the police, even if there's an arrest warrant, because they will never pay the citation because they know the police are never going to come knocking at their door, because the vehicle is not a legally registered vehicle. Your legally registered vehicle will lead the police to your front door. If you get a citation, they know where to go find you because you're the good guy. You're the guy registering your vehicle properly with the correct address, and if you get a citation and you let it go to a warrant because you didn't show up for your court date, they know where to go find you. But people who have license plates on vehicles that are not legally registered, and the El Paso Police Department, members of the El Paso Police Department, have no way of knowing, what is a legally registered vehicle in Mexico. They don't work in Mexico. They have no understanding of the Mexican system. And El Paso police officers understand the Texas system somewhat, but they have no understanding of the system of the state of New Mexico. So if you live in Texas, in the city of El Paso, but you have a New Mexico state license plate on your vehicle, there's no way that police officer can know that you're not legally registered in the state of New Mexico. There's no way. He has no access to computers. He or she, whatever the police officer is, has no access to computers, has no way of verifying when they stop you that you're in a legally registered vehicle and that the information that you are providing to the police officer is correct. They won't check your insurance information if you're in a New Mexico state vehicle. They won't check your insurance information if you're in a vehicle that has license plates from the country of Mexico. So people are choosing to be bad. I've spoken of how the political leadership is choosing to spend a lot of people's tax money on streetcars, on arenas, on baseball stadiums, on an Olympic-style swimming pool, and taxes have gone up. And the question is, what is the morality of the people in the House of Representatives? What is the morality of the people in the United States Senate? What was the morality of Barack Hussein Obama? Why did Barack Hussein Obama have such a nasty opinion of Americans? I mean, of conservative Americans, of Christians. One of the first things we heard from Obama was the bitter clingers to their guns and their religion. As if that's a bad thing. Self-defense is not a bad thing. There are horrible people out there that will hurt good, law-abiding individuals. Why shouldn't the people who are the backbone of the country have the ability to defend themselves and defend themselves properly by having access to all modern weapons? That's not a bad thing. Religion actually makes good citizens. But Christianity does not make bad citizens. Christianity makes responsible citizens. Christianity makes self-reliant citizens. Christianity makes nice, polite, kind people who are respectful towards their neighbor. And that's the kind of citizen we want to invest in. But what was the morality of Obama when one of his responsibilities was to write a budget? The President of the United States of America is the individual who writes the budget. The Congress mulls it over. What they like, they say okay. What they don't like, they say, we don't like this, and give it back to the President. Then there has to be some kind of, flux, some kind of compromise. And what you had in Obama was, we're going to do it my way or else. And what you had in Ryan, Boehner, and McConnel were individuals who were afraid of standing up to Obama and afraid of stopping the insanity. Obama and the Congress were fully aware that they were destroying the country financially by adding to the national debt. So it is. I gotta say it again. It's hypocritical and it's hilarious to sit there and look at McConnell, who's giving the appearance of being serious over the national debt and Donald Trump's tax policy, when McConnell, Ryan, Boehner, and Obama were responsible for the $20 trillion national debt that we have today. So you can't take them seriously. Not only that, Mitch McConnell, has the title of Majority Senate Leader and basically decides what happens in the Senate, Paul Ryan decides what happens in the House of Representatives. It is not an honest, fair system where everybody gets a voice and everybody gets a chance. They're the bullies. If you're a senator, a Republican senator, and you want to bring forth legislation that will help Donald Trump in his efforts to lower taxes, if Mitch McConnell doesn't want it to advance, he will not allow it to advance. So everybody doesn't get equal opportunity. Same for the House of Representatives. There may be 51, 52 senators, depending on what happens today. 51, 52 senators are not going to get equal opportunity to have their voice heard in the Senate to craft and promote legislation that they believe will be beneficial to the American citizen. And in the House of Representatives, over 200, maybe 220 Republicans, and they don't have equal opportunity to propose legislation and to have their voice heard because of Paul Ryan. So it's Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell who will ultimately decide what kind of legislation goes forward. You see, and for them to, and this is politics. This is the ugliness of politics. They're doing it for no other reason than that it does not benefit them individually. There are individuals behind them. There are business people behind them, very financially powerful business people, and they want certain things, and the only way they can get those certain things is if Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan give it to them. And the only way they can do that is to have the cooperation of Trump. Now, the message that I would give Trump is, don't believe that you need to play the political game the way they say you need to play it. I mean, you may be new to the presidency, you may be new to interacting with the Congress and observing and evaluating the Supreme Court, but that doesn't mean that you need to be under the assumption that if you do not do things their way, then you're going to be hurt and harmed, and your policies are going to be denied. Mr. Trump, you're very powerful. You're what is called a strong president. Obama was a very weak president. You're a strong president because you have the support of the majority of the people. And as long as you do what you said you were going to do, you will maintain that. Now, the news media is going to work against you because the news media works for the small group of business and special interests that manipulate politics in America so they can get out of politics what is beneficial to them. And again, it's not beneficial for them to distribute their financial power. The national debt makes almost all citizens in America weak, because instead of the individual being able to keep his or her money in his or her bank account or wallet or wherever, they're going to have to pay high taxes, which means that it's the business and the political leadership in America who have power, and there are no noble princesses in the U.S. Congress. We're making a point of morality. What are their moralities? What motivates them? What moves them? Do they understand right and wrong? Do they understand that they're destroying collectively the Congress and the President and Obama are destroying the country? I was having a conversation with a person who was under the opinion that America could just say, well, we're not going to pay what we owe. That destroys the United States of America. You're a bad credit risk. No country will want to conduct business with America if America all of a sudden decides that they're militarily strong enough to tell all their creditors that they're just not going to pay them. That makes America into a current Brazil, into a current Venezuela. I was surprised that there was a news story claiming that the political leadership of Venezuela is ordering companies, stores, to get into the Christmas spirit. You created your system of in Venezuela. You have turned Venezuela into an impoverished nation where people can't even hunt the neighborhood dogs for food. Not that I'm encouraging people to eat dogs, but I mean, and the strangest thing is these are tropical areas, which means they have a lot of natural fruits growing in the open that doesn't belong to anybody. But as I was telling somebody yesterday, and I've stated before, we don't have to participate in the modern industrial complex. We can very easily, go get a plot of land. And this individual does the assumption, well, even if you do that, you're going to run into a bank or, real estate brokers like himself that charge a lot of money for land. And the reality is that, yeah, in El Paso, Texas, you're going to pay high price within the city limits. But if you go to the outskirts, you're not going to pay high price. But of course, you don't want to buy land. If your goal is to grow vegetables and fruits, the last place you want to buy land is in a desert. And like I was telling him, I could take my money to Alaska and purchase a whole lot of land just because it's inexpensive, just because people don't want to go there. And the land that is available is not high priced. And this within the city limits of El Paso, Texas, property, in my opinion, it's overpriced. But it's overpriced because there's an interest in it. There's competition for it. And where I would not pay $150,000 for a broken down building, somebody else would pay $500,000 for it just because they believe they can put a business in there and succeed because they're within the city limits where there are a lot of potential customers. So it's manageable. We don't have to be part of this industrial complex. And we can go and do something else other than participate in their immorality. And, for a lot of reasons, what we call the amenities of the modern life, I have no problem with running water, electricity, roads, some degree of law enforcement, even though law enforcement really, in my opinion, they're becoming savages. And I wrote an article on it, and apparently people just could not understand what it is that I meant by savage. Look it up. Go to dictionary. Look up the word savage. I have a degree in psychology. If I call you a savage, I'm not engaging in a personal attack. I'm using what I call science terms to define behavior. And what I have seen locally in law enforcement definitely concerns me. And it's what we call a sign of the times. Yeah, I think we're lost. I honestly believe that people know what is right, but willingly choose what is wrong. And that's only a problem if the only person you're harming is you. Now, granted, we would all want to work. We're trying to help each other, so we're not a danger to ourselves. I think there's a degree of of the human condition that for some odd reason we're concerned about people around us. And when we see somebody doing something that is harmful, even if we do not know them, we have a sense of obligation, a moral obligation, to try to help the person understand that they're going to harm themselves and maybe they want to live a better life. The person I was talking to about not having to participate in the American modern industrial complex is what I would consider a psychologically disturbed individual. It's obvious to me the individual's overloaded with anxiety, and it's obvious to me that it's neurologically based, biologically based, because of the levels of neurotransmitters, high or low. I mean, I'm not going to tell you serotonin in him is. I have no blood test to say whether it's high or low. Since most people will not understand, I won't go into complicated issues of what is meant by neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are the chemicals in the brain that are spit out by certain brain cells and then taken in by other brain cells, and that basically is responsible for all human functioning, for thought, for emotions, for walking, for sneezing, different neurotransmitters for different functions, different brain cells, collection of brain cells, neurons, just to complicate. But it's obvious to me, by having been exposed to this person twice, that this individual is suffering from what I would call neurologically based psychosis. And psychosis is a loss of touch with reality. The first time I met the individual was when a famous singer from Mexico died, and living in El Paso, surprised when he told me, because that's something that would have been reported in El Paso. But it did happen. The singer did die. But this person was telling me that this famous singer from Mexico who died was going to be the godfather of his child. And I've learned not to pay attention to people with their big fantasies. And even then, as I was talking to him, it's obvious, when you're talking to an agitated person, when you're talking to an energized person. And then when they're telling you things about, my family is the richest family in El Paso, my family owns all this stuff, and I am worth over millions of dollars, I'm skeptical, especially if I drive the person to an apartment. If I was worth millions of dollars, I would live in a gated community with armed guards. One of my biggest things, I guess, is working in security, but one of my biggest things is security. I don't take risks in my business. I use everything that I have learned in psychology and security to evaluate the customer and not let a person who can threaten my life into the taxi that I operate. Because I happen to believe you have to have an interest in security. So if I'm worth a lot of money, I'm going to live in an area where I believe that I'm somewhat secure. Of course, I would have a 12-gauge shotgun. I'm rich, so I would be able to afford a couple of AR-15s. I'm going to have some handguns. Not for its, the 357 Magnum, Smith & Wesson Magnum, is attractive to me, not because of its power or, what you can do with it as a firearm, just as a aesthetic situation. But I would have no problem, having a couple of 357 Magnums, long barrel, not short. Glocks, everybody Glock, but you find out Glock is a foreign weapon. It's not a weapon made in the United States of America. I would want a weapon made in the United States of America. If I was going to buy a semi-automatic 9mm, but then I found out that a 380 or 40 is better. As far as, if you have a weapon for sport, you're a happy guy with a 9mm. If you want a weapon because you know that a mean, ugly, horrible creature is going to trespass on your land and threaten your life, 380, 40. Now, that's what I would say. I mean, your goal, when you shoot a criminal that you know is a threat to your life, you want to put them down. You can shoot them with a 9mm, and there's a good chance you're going to put them down. You shoot them with a 380, you are going to put them down. Now, I know that there's bigger things, and okay, well, we're living in, I'm living with other people around me, and I want to take care of the person who threatens my life, but I don't want to endanger anybody else's life, with an automatic weapon, an AK-47. Yeah, I'll hit the guy that's threatening my life, but I'm also probably going to hit a whole bunch of other innocent people. The point being security. So I'm talking to this person, and it's so obvious that the person is struggling with person psychology. And the reason that I bring it up is because for the majority of the time, I want my customers, I leave them alone. Enjoy the radio, because I do feel I feel that Christ is burdening me with trying to help people understand His message. So instead of me talking, I leave the Christian radio on because I believe it's a more effective manner of getting the message out, because it's compact and it's direct, and you're not. See, one of the things is when you enter into a conversation with an individual about whatever it is, one, they're going to try to correct you, and two, they're going to ask a bunch of stupid questions. Okay, but if I'm in the presence of an individual that I believe I can help, either with Christianity or with my assumptions, my conclusions of human psychology, I will try. And it's so easy to, once you've been exposed to many different types of people, it's just so easy to understand their composure, their nature. You can look at them and say, this person has generalized anxiety, this person has panic attacks, this person has bipolar, this person has borderline personality disorder. It's just so easy. And yes, and bipolar would fit this guy, the person I was talking to. And it's biologically based. It could be, when I was thinking, and I'm progressing, I'm moving out of politics into the mental health area, and then I will terminate in this video essay with Christianity. But as I was meditating earlier on biologically based neurosis or psychosis, I was wondering, does the stress occur first and then the imbalance in neurotransmitters happens? Or is the imbalance something that is first, we're just our own biological system just has this imbalance in neurotransmitters, and that leads to problems with anxiety and depression, which is a very good question. How to answer that question, I don't know. But I'm talking to this person, and I'm listening to him. That's one of the first things you want to do. If you're in any kind of area, a psych ward, the first thing you want to do is listen. Because if you don't listen, the person feels threatened and is going to be confrontational. Their whole life, everything is fear. And the way they have learned to deal with fear is through violence. That's why they don't want to be corrected. You can never convince them that you're correct. So don't get over that you're actually going to turn a person with severe bipolar into a normally functioning person. You're just not going to. You're never going to convince them, because they are under the assumption that they're smarter than you. But all they have been doing is coping. Finding coping strategies to deal with the situations, with what life presents to them. So I knew this. So I'm listening to the person because I know this is what is the correct thing to do. This is how there won't be any conflict, and I won't have to deal with a person that I have to hit with pepper spray or use my stun gun on them. So, and that's always a problem. You got to think safety first. If you're in mental health, safety first. Your body position, where your hands are, give yourself room to move because you may need to run, put distance between you and the crazy person. And I know a person with a degree shouldn't be using terms like crazy. Everybody understands crazy. You know, I use a title like schizophrenia, and people think they know what schizophrenia is. Schizophrenia has nothing to do with multiple personality disorder, has nothing to do with split personality disorder. Moving on. So I'm listening to the guy, and then I know, well, I've listened, so the person knows that I'm not a threat. I'm not going to be confrontational. So I start the teaching, because that's what it's an opportunity to teach. And Laura Ingraham may not understand it, but in society, she's a teacher. Rush Limbaugh's a teacher. Sean Hannity's a teacher. Every Christian pastor, minister, evangelical is a teacher. So an opportunity has been provided to teach this person what I have learned from meditating on issues of human psychology and what I have learned through getting a bachelor's degree in psychology. And in case you happen to think, well, a person with a bachelor's can't know much about human psychology. In reality, you learn illness in your bachelor's. In your master's and PhD, you learn illness management. When you get to your master's, you should already know what depression is. And if you get through a bachelor's and a master's into a PhD, you definitely should know what depression is and anxiety, generalized panic, split, whatever, the dynamics. And you should also have an understanding of your view. See, I talk to PhDs, professionals, and I question them about what I call their master thesis, what they happen to believe contributes to the formation of the individual as they are, whether it's a 3-year-old or whether it's a 100-year-old. So, I have my conclusions through meditation, through education, and I do believe that it is helpful. So I'm teaching this guy, and I'm telling him the story. You know, I tell him that I got a degree in psychology, that I posted over 800 articles on the internet, and many of them have to deal with mental health, because I first started writing in mental health. And I observed, not only did I observe people, but some of it is personal reference. How did I deal with stress? What were my processes? What was responsible for my anxiety? What was responsible for my depression? Compared that to what I studied, and then I looked at people, and then I started putting it together, and it was so obvious to me. And it's going to sound like a review, but it is a review, because this is what I was telling the person. Listen, I started with, life is supposed to be fun. We are supposed to celebrate life. It is unfortunate that in our society we get so many negative messages that interfere with our ability to enjoy life. And that's why it is essential to think about how, instead of thinking in the negative way that society has trained us to think, we should focus on changing our negativity into positive. You know, it's not that there aren't any jobs. It's that you've gone to some interviews and you haven't been hired. That doesn't mean there aren't any jobs. And it's not that there aren't any jobs, it's that you have applied for jobs that don't want to hire you. And you may want to be a doctor of psychology, but if your reality is that you get to be a taxi driver, then be the best taxi driver that you can be. Be the best secretary that you can be. Be the best waitress that you can be. Janitor, security guard. Now, in our modern world, how much we make is directly related to how much of a life we can enjoy. So, if your reality is that you're not making enough, the positive is it a money management situation where you're just not being responsible with the money that you make, or is it that you just don't earn enough? You're not stuck there. You should never see your situation in life that I'm stuck and there's nothing that I can do. America's a very big place. If I honestly get frustrated and tired of El Paso, Texas, because I invested in my education and because I'm a type of person with my personal nature and personality, there's a lot out there that I can do. It may not be directly related to being a caseworker or a bachelor's level counselor, but it's going to pay the bills, and there's going to be money left over for me to enjoy life. See, the negative is everything sucks, nothing works, why bother? The positive is just accepting things for what they are and doing the best that you can, understanding that you're going to employ elements of life that allow you to have fun and to celebrate life. In those elements, I talk about our simple, healthy pleasures of life. People think that promiscuity is healthy. It is a pleasure, and it is simple. But the reality is that it is toxic. We don't want to accept it, but we really are bread toasters. We're microwaves. We were made with particular functions. Part of our internal war, our internal struggle, is that we are supposed to be doing certain things, and we're not. We're supposed to be fathers. We're supposed to be spouses. We're supposed to be ambitious people. God made us not so we would be uncomfortable doing the same thing over and over again. The reason that doing the same thing over and over again leads to boredom, because that's how God made us. And enough boredom will eventually lead to depression. And then depression will eventually lead to hopelessness. So our society teaches us the negative, and there are very few resources teaching the positive. Talking about enjoying friendships, talking about enjoying family, talking about enjoying good meals and good music and good literature, and enjoying walks in the mountains and fishing in river streams. I mean, nature is exhilarating. Nature is fresh. Nature has a lot of aromas. A lot of pleasant experiences can be gained by being involved in nature. But if you live the modern experience, you're more than likely to suffer from depression and anxiety, and you don't understand why you're depressed, and you don't understand why you're anxious. And I do feel a moral obligation. As I was thinking, meditating on how I was going to continue to structure, because the video essays on mental health is just basically me repeating the same thing over and over again. Be positive, be hopeful, be optimistic, be realistic. And being realistic has nothing to do with lamenting. It's being grateful for what you have and using what you have to enjoy life. There's a lot of garbage on television, but not everything on television is garbage. And moving on to the reality of severe depression and anxiety, the healthy thing to do is, one, to learn relaxation, how to relax. And relaxing is not meditating. Relaxing is literally doing nothing. Putting yourself in the state of mind where you're not thinking, you're not feeling, and you're definitely not doing. All you are doing is relaxing, getting your heart rate down. And then you move from relaxation to emotional management. And emotional management is evaluating your emotions and putting under the the filter of is this emotion something I can control, or is this emotion the result of something that's out of control, out of my control? A lot of our emotions, fear, anxiety, is actually the result of our own thoughts. That's why I have to tell people, if you want to feel better, you got to think better. And one of the things is, you don't gain confidence in the world around you. You don't believe I'm going to move away from the negative and go towards the positive, and the world is going to become beautiful, and there's going to be 100 jobs that I can take, and I get to pick and choose what I want. The world is still going to, the ugly part of the world is still going to be ugly. But what you will ultimately end up doing by helping yourself with relaxation and emotional management and cognitive restructuring is that you will be able to confront the challenges of life. You'll be able to live in an ugly society and be a person of peace, and be a person who experiences love, and be a person who experiences joy. I live in a very ugly world. El Paso, Texas is a very ugly world. The taxi industry that I am involved in is a very ugly world. And there's a lot of toxic stuff that I can let affect my spirit and interfere with my ability to enjoy life, but I choose not to. I choose to watch movies I enjoy, to listen to music that I enjoy. Only have conversations with individuals who are not toxic. Life is a choice. We can choose a bad attitude or we can choose a good attitude. Life is a choice. And as I said, I started with politics. Now I'm in mental health, and then I'll move on to the Christian message. So, and the themes that I have not talked about is, you go through relaxation, you start managing your emotions, and managing your emotions doesn't mean, okay, I know I'm sad and that's it. No, it's I know I'm sad and I have to work to be happy. See, happiness is not an absence of sadness. Happiness is happiness. And I'm surprised by how many people, mostly in the Christian community, make statements like you will never be happy. We will always be challenged by life. Doesn't mean we will never be happy. We can be happy while we manage our day-to-day crisis. So relaxation, emotional management, and then the big part is cognitive restructuring. Cognitive restructuring is just moving away from the negative and focusing on the positive, focusing on yourself, focusing on what's good in life. Again, being optimistic, being hopeful, being realistic, and realistic is being grateful for what you have and enjoying it. The emotional complication interferes with individuals' ability to try. You know, people want jobs, but they start to fail. They start to convince themselves of the negative. Before you know, they're depressed, or they have fear, and that depression and fear is overwhelming, and it interferes with the individual's continued attempt to try. Simple solution: you go through the process of relaxation, emotional management, cognitive restructuring. Every time you set a goal, a manageable goal, and you accomplish the manageable goal, you gain confidence. The more you accomplish, the more confidence you gain. The more confidence you gain, the better you feel. Your self-esteem improves. See, we were seriously beat up by life in every imaginable way. And we got to a point in time in life where we, all of a sudden, became our greatest obstacle to a decent and pleasant life. We misinterpreted, we misidentified, and we misinterpreted and misidentified because society is telling us that this is what it is. Society tells us that divorce means that you're a failure. Society tells us that losing a job means that you're a failure. Society tells us that anything that goes wrong, we are failures. And society does not say, when you confront a challenge, you have the ability to meet that challenge. And you have the ability to meet that challenge by putting things in perspective, in a more realistic way of looking at things. If you want to get beyond your pain and suffering, that's what is at the end of everything is pain and suffering. And we have the ability to minimize our pain and suffering by thinking better. When we think better, we will feel better. And when we feel better, we'll be able to do better things for ourselves. We won't be depressed. We won't be wasting time. You know, we'll be interacting with friends. We'll be interacting with family members. We'll have that passion and desire inside of us, but we'll also be able to exercise it by getting our resumes, going out and making applications, cleaning up, taking a bath, combing our hair, shaving, business attire, going to the interview in a pleasant attitude. When we're asked questions, we don't get nervous and anxious. We're actually able to answer the question in giving, a credible response where the interviewer can see that we actually do know something and we would actually be an asset to their organization and their company. If we choose the negative, we shouldn't be surprised with the life we have. But we have the choice of actually being positive. And we have that choice, and I'm moving into the Christian message, because the person who made us actually wants us to succeed. He wants us to be humble people and not make the foundation of our success $1 million homes and expensive cars and jewelry. He measures the quality of life through love. If you want to know anything about God, the world tells you of a mean, angry God that motivates people to harm each other. There have been tragedies in history, but those have been human tragedies. God had no hand in it. If you read the Bible, and I think this is an important message for the modern world, when you read the Old Testament, yes, God is telling the Jewish people to go and completely slaughter their neighbors, man, woman, and child. But it isn't because he's a mean God. It's because he's a loving God. And this loving God understands that if our neighbors are about sexual perversion, worshiping idols, giving themselves over completely to the dark side, not only are they a threat to themselves, but they're a threat to us. So that mean God that the world has told you exists is not real. The God I know is the God of love. A God of love that fortifies his daughters and sons so they'll be able to be strong enough to confront the challenges that life presents. There's a lot of reasons why marriages are tragedies. The people have no real peace. People have no real godly peace. People have no real godly vision. They don't understand who they are as individuals, and they definitely don't understand who their marriage partner is. And that it's a lack of introspection, and it's a lack of sympathy and empathy. You do not evaluate a person according to your personal reference. You are you. Your spouse is a totally different person. Same. But if you employ positive ideation, positive psychology, you will be a healthy person. And if your spouse employs positive psychology, they will be a happy person. And then two happy people will be able to be happy together. And that's God telling us that, one, we must fulfill these functions as he gives us a purpose, and two, this is how to function in that purpose. God's a very helping God. God's a very wise God. He understands a whole lot more than you and I could ever understand. His vantage point allows him to see everything, and by him being able to see everything, he can help us. He guides us. He tells us to take a left turn. He tells us to take a right turn. He tells us to stop. And what you get from a relationship from God is love for God, love for yourself, and love for your fellow man. Jesus Christ leads to peace in the individual, and when individuals are individuals of peace, there's peace in society. It's a tragedy that, you know, there's so much information, there's so many people talking, everybody thinks they're smart, they're the wisest person on the planet, they can tell everybody else how to live, but there's so much tragedy as far as people suffering from pain and suffering and not being able to manage it. And to me, God is the, you know, miracle healer. You don't have to go through 12 years of therapy. In one day of sitting down and talking to God, He will put your thoughts and emotions in order. You will feel better, and you will have a better life. In one day, in an instance of a second, He can make you whole again. He can heal your depression. He can heal your anxiety. He can give you vision. He will help you understand that even though some of your ambitions didn't come through, you can still have a happy life. And He puts order in people's lives. When you're chaotic in thought and emotion at work, and you're in crisis because you're constantly in conflict with your coworkers, God puts order in your thoughts and emotions and helps you, helps the work environment, the work experience, not, you know, be a pleasant experience and not an unpleasant, toxic experience. And I would personally say, even though God and I have our personal problems, I would definitely recommend Him for, you know, for everybody, because everybody's looking for someone. Everybody's looking for answers to their pain and suffering. Everybody's looking for, you know, understanding, a position in life. Everybody's looking for a friend. Everybody's looking for a spouse. Everybody's looking for answers to help them have a happy marriage, to raise their children well, for the children to be, you know, stable, well balanced. Everybody's looking for what's good in life, and the reason we're looking for what's good in life because God, who made us to respond better to what is good. I've always told people it's hard for me to be angry. It's hard for me to be confrontational. The person who chastises me more than anyone when I do get angry is myself. Because my natural state is to be at peace. My natural state is to have fun. Arguing with people just is not fun. Being angry is not a happy emotion. It's toxic. It brings a lot of horrible, you know, it's tied to a lot of horrible things. So the natural state, which God made us, is a better state. The kinder, you know, gentler person, the meek person, the humble person, the polite person, the respectful person, the person who understands that everything starts with God. That even though we have a different opinion, we just have to respect the authority of God. He's in charge. It's His universe. We are His children. One of the things a while back that I learned about Christianity is that Christianity is about service. You learn to be a good son, a good daughter of God when you help others, when we help others. And if we're looking for a better world, we have to become better people. And the reality is, one, there is a God. There is only one God. He did create the universe. We do have to let Him into our hearts if we want to receive His blessings of life after death. And not only is it the blessing of life after death in heaven, but it's also that He lends us His wisdom. He guides us while we're here. He puts order in our lives. He helps us to have a better life experience. It's not over. As bad as the world looks, as bad as everything on television and the news, as bad as all that looks, we don't have to be, you know, sensitive to the ugliness. We could be sensitive to the beauty of God, and the beauty of God is peace, love, and joy. That He's real, He has a genuine interest in us, and if we allow Him to, He will help us have better lives. And all through love, not through intelligence, not through reading a lot of psychology books. But I'm not going to go back on positive ideation. I happen to believe that the articles that I have written on positive ideation, positive psychology, is a gift from God. It's a gift from heaven. Not only to help me, but to help other people. Because God doesn't want to see us suffer. He would like us to smile. Even though we confront things that bring sadness to us, He would like us to understand, put things in perspective, and continue walking with Him. And we honestly, genuinely do have to realize that we're wrong, that we have been wrong. That's the repentance part. We have to realize that the reason that we don't get the warmth coming from God's heart is because we're disobedient, and that puts distance between us and God. So it is important to repent, but it's also important to believe that God is real and that God came to earth as Jesus Christ and died on the cross for the forgiveness of our sins. And of course, it is important to invite Him into our lives. I'll keep using this Bible verse over and over again. Jesus Christ said, I will come and I will knock. If you open the door, I will come in and spend time with you. If not, I will depart. You want to let God, when God knocks, you want to let Him in the door. Because He doesn't want to harm you. He's pure, innocent, righteous. He wants to help you. He wants to have a healthy relationship with you, to help you understand how to manage life. And because you're His son, you're His daughter. He's a responsible parent, and He loves His children, and He wants the best for His children. So you invite Him in by praying, I am sorry for what I have done. I am sorry for my sins. I do repent. I believe in You as the one and only God. I need You. I will not be happy without You. Jesus Christ, I accept You as my Lord and Savior. Does it have to be those exact words? No. But we do need to repent. We need to believe. We need to tell Him that we love Him and we need Him. And we need to invite Him. Jesus Christ, I accept You as my Lord and Savior. That's how we invite Him into our lives. He sees the sincerity in our hearts, and He honors our prayer, and He sends the Holy Spirit, and now we got the wisdom of God that will help us manage life and do what we have to do to meet the challenges of life as they present themselves. Once you have prayed, God is going to take you to a church. God is going to take you to a Christian radio station. God is going to take you to a Christian television station. It is God who's going to lead and guide you, and all we have to do is enjoy the journey. Thank you for listening, and I wish you well.